Okay. So, essential word for IELTS, TOEFL, CAE, TOEIC. Our next word is appropriate. Yes? It's what is appropriate? Is it a noun? Is it an adjective? What part of speech is it again?
Adjective.
It's an adjective, right? And what does it mean?
Good.
What is the good, suitable? What is the opposite of appropriate?
Inappropriate.
Inappropriate. Very good. So inappropriate. So appropriate is the opposite of inappropriate. So appropriate is adjective. What is the adverb? Appropriately, right?
Mm-hmm.
Appropriate, appropriately. So we have, for example, appropriate language, appropriate behavior, yes? His behavior was not appropriate. If you use inappropriate words, or if you make an inappropriate comment, to make an inappropriate comment. Sometimes people lose their jobs for making inappropriate comments. If you make an inappropriate comment on air, sometimes some TV personalities lose their jobs because they make inappropriate comments on air. Sometimes they make some comments that they will have to apologize later for. So they say that was inappropriate. So we have appropriate, which is basically suitable, something that's fitting and suitable. And for a special occasion, situation, or place, like you should dress appropriately. Yes? You should speak appropriately. So to speak, dress, and behave appropriately, yeah? Appropriately. Inappropriate language will not be tolerated here. Inappropriate. So what you said was a bit inappropriate. Clothes appropriate for a job interview. When you are going for a job interview, you should wear appropriate clothes. You cannot go in jeans and you can't dress casually. Appropriate clothes for an interview would be usually a formal clothes, right? Yeah. Appropriately. The painters met appropriately enough in an art gallery. Okay. Just remember, there is an appropriate as verb. Sorry. So appropriate. But then it's ate. It's like ate as verb. And appropriation. Appropriation. Then, for example, we have to appropriate funds. Or budget. That's different. Appropriate as verb, you hear that in the news very often. So the Senate, which is the Congress, appropriated funds for the new project. So if you appropriate, that is you allocate and allot. That's a different. So to appropriate as verb would mean to allocate to allocate funds and money for something. So usually in the US, that's a different word. If you ever hear the word appropriate, not appropriate. So appropriate, as adjective. Appropriate, as verb. So appropriate funds, it's the Senate Appropriations Committee. We have the Appropriations Committee. When they, the Ways and Means Committee that would appropriate funds. So it's the Ways and Means Committee that would appropriate funds. That is enough money. They would take money and they would leave it specially for a project. This is called appropriation. Now, that's the big meaning of appropriate. Not very important. So you don't want to bother with that. Yeah? But you know that all you need to know is to remember the word appropriate and appropriately. You should speak appropriately, you should dress appropriately, and you should behave appropriately. So when somebody makes a comment and it's not appropriate, you can say it wasn't appropriate. He made an inappropriate comment, right? So that's inappropriate. Appropriate and inappropriate. For comments, we also have another thing that I want you to learn. We have politically correct. Have you heard politically correct?
Yeah.
So you say something or you do something that's politically correct. So if you say something that's politically correct, and I want to find a good instance of that, so I would just type in, do you have any idea what it might mean? Politically correct. So, political correctness or political correctitude is a term used by some conservatives to describe the attitude or policy of being careful not to offend or upset any of the group of people in society who are believed to have a disadvantage. For example, if you're speaking and you make some racially inappropriate comments, racially inappropriate comments?
Yeah.
Racially inappropriate comments. When you speak, there are certain things that we do. For example, if I keep saying, hey, women are like this, men are like that, women are like this, men are like that, this is regarded as sexist. If I speak against women or men in a special way, that would not be politically correct here in Canada. Because in Canada, for example, it's they believe in equality, 100%, and in everything. So if I say something that might sound a little inappropriate in terms of the way I'm talking about either women or men, or a special group of people, or a special race or color, this would be totally politically incorrect. It will not be politically correct. Sometimes you say to be politically correct, African Americans, because if you say black people, that term is not politically correct in the US. Now they use African American because the term African American would be politically correct and would not be regarded as a racial, we have a racial slur or epithet. A racial slur is such as, and I'm just, the N-word? What is the N-word? We have the F-word. The F-word is sorry but fuck. The N-word is nigger. That basically is a word that it's very offensive. Do not use the word nigger. So don't use it. It's interesting because the black people use it themselves. and it's with ER. Why would I write it with? Nigger. So it's something we should not use. But white people use it and black people use it when they talk to their friends. How you doing, nigger? So if you ever watch a movie and you see people calling themselves nigger, it's like, how are you doing, buddy, now? It's like, buddy, you know, buddy? It's like you say to your friend. How are you doing, buddy? Hey, how are you doing, bro? Bro, body, chum, dude. How you doing, buddy? How you doing, bro? Let's go. Hey, yo. Yo. Chum, dude, pal, like friend. How you doing, pal? Let's go, pal. Let's go, chum. Let's go, dude. Dude, look. So nigger like that is also a term of address when people talk to each other. Say, how are you doing, nigger, especially close friends. But if you say to a black person, especially an African American, it's very, very offensive. Very offensive. It's very offensive. It offends people. You know, I didn't mean to offend you. I didn't mean to offend you. When you say something that I didn't mean to offend you. I didn't mean to hurt you. You say something, but this word is very offensive. For example, if you say chink to a Chinese, that's like a racial slur. That's not good. It's not appropriate at all. It's very inappropriate. And you ask this guy, hey, chink. It's a word that Americans use for Chinese people. It's a bad word, so don't use it. Yeah. And or for Pakistani people, they say Pakis. For Chinese people, they would say. So these are epithets and slurs, and usually racial. For nigger, we call nigger the N-word. The F word is fuck. The N word is nigger. But you say, hey nigga. Hey nigger. So, you hear that. And it's very offensive. But it's interesting because many black people use the word to call their own friends. And even white people use this to call their own friends. It's like a term of address. But if a white person uses it for a black person, that's terrible. That's war. That's war. You shouldn't be using it, ever. So this is politically incorrect, not correct. So if a term is sometimes say just to be politically correct, not to offend anyone, and you want to say something that's not sexist, that's not racist. So some comments, whenever you want to open your mouth and talk, if you say, ladies, women are like this, women are like that, and women cannot drive as well as men can do, that's sexist. Because you're talking about a certain gender. And you can say gender-based, gender, to make some gender-specific, to make gender-specific comments, specific. That's gender-specific. Now, for example, we have these combinations, like gender-specific, like age-appropriate, age-appropriate activities. You can say age-appropriate games and activities. So age-appropriate games are games that are appropriate for a certain age, right? For example, when you want to become a teacher, you need to learn age-appropriate games and activities. To what activities are appropriate for what age bracket of the students, what age group. This age group, for example, 5 to 7, these activities are age appropriate for 5 to 7-year-olds. these activities are appropriate for 7 to 9-year-olds, and so on and so forth. So things are age appropriate. That's why we have gender specific comments. You know, gender means sex, and sex means like male or female. So if I make some gender specific comments, I start talking about, for example, women or men. And if you say, hey, men are all, for example, men are all like something, sloppy. You know sloppy? Yeah? When you go home, their socks are in the fridge, their underwear everywhere. When they shave, their hair is all over the place. When they eat, like, yeah? So these are some, these are gender-specific comments. And a man would say, hey, these are sexist comments, right? And of course, we have to generalize, right? We talked about that. To generalize. So these are generalizations. And generalization. Yeah? Sometimes you overgeneralize. To over. So comments that are sexist or racist, sometimes you have the word ageist. I mean, young people talking about old people, or old people talking about young people. We usually, yeah, there's an E. So, you know, we have racist comments, ageist comments. Ageist comments are comments that are about age. Old people are all, for example, like this. Or young people are all like that. So, ageist, racist. These comments are basically inappropriate. Being politically correct is good to know. Inappropriate comments, using the N-word, racial slurs, racial epithets. It's kind of hard to remember the word racial. For example, just in the news now, they're saying that North Korea is using some racial, the leader or someone there, I don't remember exactly who, is using some racial slur or epithet about Obama, saying he's some sort of an animal in a zoo. And since it's a racial slur, I would imagine that it's like a monkey or a chimpanzee or something like that, because that's used for some special color of people or races, that kind of animal, they use it. So they say that's like a racial slur or epithet. I was just watching the news yesterday and they kept saying racial epithet, racial epithet, racial epithet. So that's a racial epithet or a slur. Like if you say chink, say packy. If you say wetback to Mexicans in the US, they call Mexicans like wetback. This is not good. These are highly offensive, very offensive, and racial slurs. Now, let's move on from and the next word, there are also a couple of examples. It's not appropriate to cheat on tests. She was dressed appropriately in a suit for the job interview. You should dress appropriately, yes? Next word is clarify. Of course, clarify is the verb for when you clarify something. What do you do when you clarify? To make things? You make things clear, right? So clarify is the verb for clear. Let's see. To clarify. That's a verb, right? What's the noun? Yeah. clarification. So clarify, clarification. Clarify, clarification. And the adjective is clear. We also have clear as a verb. To clear. Okay. I would say there are a couple of points that I would like to clarify here, to make clear. Yeah? I would like to clarify. I'd like to clarify a couple of points. Clear is the opposite of vague here, right? Something that is vague is not clear. We also had the word, remember, sometimes ambiguous? Oh, you were not here, but ambiguous, we have it in one of the lessons. Something that has more than one meaning, something that is not clear. If a text is ambiguous, you don't understand it. It has more than one meaning. It's not clear, it's vague. So something that is vague is not clear. Something that is clear is not vague. You would ask me, could you clarify this last point? Because it's not very clear for me. It's not very clear for me. Could you clarify this phrase, the last thing you said? So clarify, and let me give you a couple of good examples for clarify from here. Could you clarify your position, for example? Could you clarify 1 or 2 points for me? So you usually clarify a couple of points. Reporters asked him to clarify his position. So reporters asked him to clarify his position. Your comment is very vague. Could you clarify it? Your comment is very vague. Is very vague. Could you please verify it, clarify it? Could you please clarify your position on the new law? Could you clarify? So when you clarify something, you make it sound clear. Now, clear as a verb itself, what is this action? What did he do? He cleared his throat. He cleared his throat. What did he do? Well, what did I do? I cleared my throat. We do it all the time, like, yeah, before you want to speak, if you feel like there's a lump in your throat or something there. So you clear your throat. She cleared the table. Cleared the table. Before cleaning it. So let's remember, it's a good word, because you can clear the table and you can clean it. Cleaning and clearing are two different things. They're not the same. I set the table, to set the table. To set the table. And of course, it's not relevant, but to make to make the bed, an unmade bed. You make your bed. In the morning when you wake up, if you're nice, I never do that. Let me confess right here. My bed is always unmade, and I hate it, but I'm so lazy to do it. So, unmade beds are, look, your room is my room is always untidy, and my bed is always unmade. I'm an amazing guy. So, untidy room and unmade bed. A typical gentleman. Yeah? You know what I'm saying? A typical guy. A typical man, boy, whatever. Typical? You know, a typical boy or a typical man, you know what that would be. Like men are generally like that. That is generalization. That is sexist. Don't generalize about guys. Don't generalize about guys. I'm an exception. They're good. Others are good. So the reason why I give you this, because we set the table, and then we clear it, and then we clean it. So you set the table, then when you're done, lunch, dinner, whatever, you take them out, the things that you put on the table. So the plates and all that. So you first clear the table, and then you clean it. So clearing and cleaning are different. You clear your throat, right? But you clarify a point, you clarify your position. Could you please clarify your position? Could you please, let's say, clarify your position on this issue? On this issue. Now, the issue could be, for example, gay marriage, same-sex marriage, right? On the issue of same-sex marriage. Same-sex marriage. Could you, in the US, all politicians would have to clarify their position on certain issues. One of those issues is gay marriage. Are you for it or against it? One of the issues is abortion. Are you for abortion or against it? Are you pro-life or pro-choice? Let me write it because especially when an issue is highly controversial, so for clear, controversial issues, It's good to know controversial issues, controversial. You know controversial? So, we have talked about it before, but again, a controversial issue is an issue that people have different ideas and opinions about it. People debate it and discuss it all the time. It's highly controversial. Highly controversial issues. Highly controversial issues. Such as abortion. Such as abortion, gay marriage, gun ownership laws, or gun laws, gun ownership laws. These are highly controversial issues, right? We say controversial or contentious. Contentious. I'm sorry. N is not here. Contentious. contentious. So we say a highly contentious issue, or highly contentious issues, or highly controversial issues. A controversial issue is an issue where there are many sides and there are different people with different opinions on it. They're debating it, to debate. To debate. To debate an issue. Let's debate. Presidential debates, they talk about highly controversial issues when it comes to foreign policy, when it comes to domestic policy, when it comes to these major issues, such as abortion, gay marriage, gun ownership rights. Should people have guns or not? No guns. What should people do? Should guns be limited or not limited? In the U.S., that's a highly controversial issue because it's part of their constitution. It's in the law that people should be able to possess arms. But then kids are taking guns to school and killing people. So it's a very, very controversial issue in the U.S. So politicians are always asked to clarify their position regarding about these issues. Could you please clarify your position regarding gun rights, gun ownership rights, same-sex marriage, or abortion? Some people in the U.S. are pro-life. We have pro-life. And some people are, we say pro-choice. Can you guess which one is pro-abortion, which one is against abortion? Pro-life means what? For life. So if you're pro-life, do you think you are for or against abortion? If you're pro-life, are you for or against abortion? So pro-life people are pro-life, so they are against abortion. They are against killing fetuses, right? Killing life. That's why they're pro-life. Yeah. Pro-choice people believe that the mother should have choice to terminate or end pregnancy. To terminate means to end, right? To terminate means to end pregnancy. So pro-choice people, that are usually liberal people, they believe that women should have the choice to end their pregnancy if they choose to. Pro-life people believe that abortion needs to be banned, no abortion. So they're pro-life and pro-choice we have. Are you guys pro-choice or pro-life here? This is a highly controversial issue. Clarify your position, Mako. Mako, are you pro-life or pro-choice? Do you think if it happens to you and if you become pregnant, you should have the choice to terminate the pregnancy and get an abortion? Or no, you don't have the right to get an abortion, even though you don't want the kid, even if the kid doesn't come from a healthy relationship? It's a major issue in the US because we have the issue of teen pregnancy, for example, the teenagers becoming pregnant. There was a recent trip somewhere in the US, 3 of the 7 girls became pregnant on a field trip, for a school field trip or something. Yeah. So do you think those teenagers should have the choice to end the pregnancy? Are you pro-life or pro-choice? This is a highly contentious issue in the US, highly controversial. So you may think, okay, I don't know right now, I haven't decided yet, but a politician who wants to run for office and become a mayor or a governor, or especially governor, not mayors, but governor or president or a congressman needs to be clear on this position, right? They need to. So you say the report needs further clarification. because it's very vague. It needs clarification. It needs clarification. Please clarify. You need to clarify certain points in this report because the report is generally vague. So let's move on. And let me read a couple of examples from here. Chapter 2 in the textbook clarifies the process of osmosis. Osmosis is a process in physics happening. Chapter 2 clarifies it, makes it clear, explains it. A clarification of the government's position on this matter is necessary. So a clarification of the government's position on this matter is necessary. So a clarification is necessary. That means the government needs to clarify its position. So the next word is conceal. Have you heard the word conceal before? Have you heard it? Sakura?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, what do you conceal?
Also means secret.
Conceal doesn't mean, conceal is a verb. Thank you, but conceal is a verb. So what do you do with a secret?
Hide.
You hide it. So conceal means to hide. Yes? So, to conceal, you can conceal what? The truth. You can conceal a weapon under your dress. You can conceal anything. And of course, this would be a concealment. So to conceal means to hide. Students concealed their feelings about the course. You can conceal the truth. You can conceal your feelings. Your feelings. I tried hard to conceal my feelings, but I couldn't. My mom found out about me being, what? Happy? Sad? Because usually they find out, right? So, I tried to conceal my feelings to no avail. But it was pointless, useless. If you try to do something to no avail is a phrase, is a big phrase, meaning, but I failed. But you failed. Did not successfully. I tried to do something to no avail. To no avail is a phrase that means not successfully. So if I don't want to say this, I tried to conceal my feelings, but it was pointless. There was no point in doing it, because my father already knew how I felt, how I was feeling. So he already knew how I was feeling. He already knew. There was no point in doing it. There was no point in hiding the truth. If I say there's no point in doing something, there is no point in hiding or concealing the truth. There's no point. There's no point. There's no point in hiding the truth. He already knows everything. He already knows everything. There's no point in doing it. If people think that the more they work, the more taxes they should pay, and the less money they have, some of them, they say, when you talk to them here in Canada, they say, there's no point in trying so hard to make more than $100,000 because no matter how hard you work, you have to pay all in taxes. All that money goes to taxes, so there's no point in trying that. You have failed 5 of your 7 tests. You know you have failed everything. And 2 more tests are left. You're like, there's no point in taking those 2. So I tried in vain. In vain, I want to also give you, because I said to no avail, I tried in vain. In vain means to no avail. Means pointlessly. There's no point. I tried in vain to change her for 10 years, but it was all in vain. All in vain. I really want you to learn in vain. Now, vain itself is different. If somebody's vain, you know, we have 2 veins. Vain like this is vain like that. So if somebody says, hey, are you vain? Or Jane is very vain. Or John is very vain. Jackie's very vain. What does that mean? If somebody's very vain, what does that mean? It means that they only care about the way they put on clothes and everything. Their appearance and their clothes. They don't have a good mind or brain. Yeah? So he's very vain. If you're vain, some people believe it's not necessarily very bad, but it's kind of negative to say he's very vain. If somebody's vain, they just care about their clothes. So, are you vain? Do you care a lot about your clothes or the way you look? Some people believe that, okay, caring too much about your clothes or the way you look is not necessarily a good thing. Some people believe, well, that's good because it's following fashion and it's fashionable, it's trendy. Nice. But if you try in vain to try in vain, if you try in vain, it means your efforts, fruitless efforts. Have you heard fruitless? Fruitless efforts? Means your efforts are fruitless. Pointless. Pointless. Fruitless. Pointless. You may try, but in vain. So your efforts will be fruitless, completely fruitless. Fruitless means no fruit, right? So fruitless actions means no results. Fruitless efforts. Your efforts, no matter how hard you try, if your efforts are fruitless, there's no fruit. There's no result. I tried in vain to what? Have you ever tried in vain to do anything? Like tried and failed? You have a roommate in that room, and I tried in vain to speak English with my Japanese roommates, but it was all in vain. I could not make them speak English. They just wanted to speak Japanese. We tried in vain to change everything, but we couldn't. So when you try in vain, so I tried to conceal my feelings in vain. I tried in vain to conceal my feelings. I tried in vain. So if you try in vain, and they come together. Try in vain to do something. It means you tried, but you can't do it. To no avail is a big phrase, but in vain is much more common. So conceal. Concealing the truth will not get you anywhere. What I just said is an expression. Something something, it could be anything, will not get you anywhere. Get you anywhere. So if you learn these phrases and expressions, your English will become much better. So he says something will not get you anywhere. For example, I would say cheating will not get you anywhere. Lying will not get you anywhere. Yeah? Lying will not get you anywhere.
Okay, I won't lie. I need to say.
Stealing will not get me anywhere.
Bye.
Yeah? So lying, stealing, cheating. See, all these negative things will not get you anywhere. You know what it means when I say will not get you anywhere. So stealing will not get you anywhere. Lying will not get you anywhere. Can you give me an example for this? Like something that will not get you anywhere. You'll say to your friends. You can use any of these sentences anytime. Cheating will not get you anywhere. Or don't lie to me. Lying will not get you anywhere. You have similar expressions in Japanese, right? Or in other, of course, other languages. Something will not get you anywhere. Should be. There should be similar phrases. I mean,
So common.
no, not very common. So conceal, we're good. Let me see also conceal here, before moving on. So the shadows concealed her. The path was concealed, a concealed weapon, concealed the fact, concealment, deliberate concealment of his activities. Deliberate concealment. So deliberate concealment of his activities. Of course, activities everyone knows. What is deliberate? Do you know deliberate? That's a very good word. What is deliberate and deliberately? The deliberate concealment of his activities. What is deliberate? He left his bag or phone in my room deliberately. Or he deliberately left his bag in my room. To do something deliberately. To do something deliberately. Deliberately. Means intentionally, right? Have you heard the word intentionally? Intentionally. Means on purpose. You know, on purpose? You did that on purpose. You did it intentionally. You did it deliberately. Say deliberately.
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 Deliberate.
Deliberate.
Deliberately.
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 Yes.
Deliberately.
Yes. Deliberate. It's a very good word, used a lot in English language, used all the time. Deliberately. And to deliberate means to think. The jury is, or I can say are, deliberating. To deliberate, to think. To think, to make a decision. The jury deliberated for 4 hours before acquitting him. There was silence while she deliberated on his words. So you deliberate on or about something. So deliberate here means think. That's why when we say you did it deliberately, it means you had thought about it. You did that on purpose. But we don't, the word deliberate is a big word, so we don't usually say, hey, what are you doing? I'm deliberating. We don't usually say, I'm deliberating right now. But we use it for jury all the time. We don't say the jury is thinking, or the jury are thinking. You know, the word jury, remember, and always when we have such words I tell you, the word jury is like the word family or team or class in English. These words are called collective nouns. Collective nouns. And a collective noun talks about like a unit. For example, a family is made up of some people inside it, right? Collective nouns can be both plural or singular. Plural or singular. We can say the family are or the family is. It depends. If I say the family are, I'm talking about every member of the family. So if I say the jury are deliberating, it means every single person, my emphasis is on every single person. But if I say the jury has reached the verdict, so the jury has reached the verdict. You know, verdict is the final decision of a judge or jury. In a court, the verdict could be guilty or not guilty, right? Guilty or not guilty. That's a verdict. And you will hear this word a lot. When you watch news, you follow trials. And we have the topic crime and punishment. And one day, we shall talk about it more again. The topic crime and punishment talks about the entire jury and court process. But basically, when there's a court, there's a decision. That decision is called a sentence or a verdict. So that sentence or verdict. Has the jury reached, so the jury deliberated for 5 hours.
Sorry again.
Yes.
The stapler again. Oh, you
Just
got-
take it. Take it.
you
Yeah,
got-
I don't know. I have a collection of staplers here.
Okay.
So.
Thank you, sir. There you go.
So the jury deliberated for, let's say, 5 hours. So to deliberate here means to think. The jury deliberated for 5 hours before reaching the verdict. Before reaching the verdict. Before reaching the verdict. They deliberated for 5 hours. So I want you to remember the word deliberate. Deliberate, ate as a verb, but deliberate as adjective. You did that deliberately. That was deliberate what you did. Means you did that on purpose. So when you do something on purpose, or you do it deliberately, you do it intentionally. And intention. So remember, the jury is or are. Family is are. Team is are. Class is. So the team is in good spirit. It basically means we're talking about the team as a unit. But the team are eating. It means every person is sitting now, they're eating, right? The class are eating lunch. The class meets next week. So this case, these are collective nouns because a collective noun has a collection of things in it. I want you to remember the word deliberate, deliberately. You did that on purpose. He left his cell phone in my office on purpose because he wanted to return to do something else. You deliberately concealed or withheld information from the police officer, from court. You deliberately did that. The suspect deliberately concealed the weapon, of course. People conceal, hide the weapon. Conceal the truth. And because I talked about deliberately, and to deliberate, and I talked about intention, one more time, intention. You know intention? Intention. What is the verb for intention? To intend. To intend to do something. You do to do something, to do something with or without intention. You know, we have both. With is correct, with is also correct. With, both the pronunciation is either this or this. According to Merriam-Webster, this or this. So you can say the or the. Both are correct. Without or without are both correct. So without you, without you. With you, with you. Both are correct. Now, with or without intention, I had no intention to. I didn't intend to hurt his feelings. Means I didn't have the intention to hurt his feelings. Now, in law, when we catch a suspect, a criminal suspect, in order to